On episode 302 of the podcast, we talk about the negatives of the hustle culture and how Jill has achieved working less while making more by going from working 5 days a week to only 12 hours a week. We unpack the creative and scientific formulas, and we talk about strategy versus tactics in marketing and why it's very important for you to know the difference. What's up, friend? I am Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business Podcast, the show for corporate and commercial filmmakers, where we talk about the business of video production, sales, marketing, production, operations, mindset, all of the things that go into building and maintaining and growing and scaling a video production business, something that I've been doing for 17 years, about to hit that 18th year birthday of this business, and I've had I have been very breathtaking to have built a seven-figure video production business. It has not been all rainbows and unicorns. I've learned a lot along the way, and my hope with this show is I can share with you the things that I've done right and the things that I've learned from, as well as bringing on other people that are smarter than me and better looking than me to help you along your video business journey. So welcome. If that sounds like you, then you're in the right spot. But before we jump into this interview, I have a gift for you. It's something that I briefly mentioned in this conversation with Jill. It is my cheat sheet that I use for client meetings and for Zoom calls, which is a step-by-step process for how to lead sales meetings. For me personally, I used to struggle feeling confident when meeting with CEOs and higher ups and being in a conference room and sitting at a big table with like really fancy furniture. And it wasn't until I had written out a process and started applying this method that my confidence skyrocketed and helped me close big deals. It's called the Ascend Method, and you can download it for free at studiosherpas.com/ascend. You can download it, print it out, put it next to your desk, and start practicing it. And then you won't need to stumble through like where you need to take the conversation next and who should own the conversation. It is a really, really helpful guide. It's been one of our most popularly downloaded guides that we've ever made. A lot of people have gotten success using this method and taking it and making it their own. You can get the Ascend Method by going to studiosherpas.com/ascend. I'll also include a link to it in the show notes. It's totally free. Go put it in your email, download it, and start using the method today. And now to introduce my guest for today, not quite fitting into a single title, Jill Wise is a business and marketing problem solver. She pushes through the noise of the online world and the rules of what you're supposed to do, instead guiding her clients to show up authentically as they build, grow, and scale businesses that feel good to them. Let's get into this interview with Jill Wise. All right, what's up, Jill? Hey, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome for having you on the show. So good. Jill and I met in the mastermind that is being hosted by our friend Mike Kim, and I think I learned pretty quick. You had posted, you were asking for some feedback on, I think you were on to guest on podcasts and maybe other stages, and so you just had this landing page that went to your kind of like, why you should be on a podcast. And I read through that page and I'm like, this is brilliant. I have shared that page since because you do such an incredible job of putting your personality in words. I don't know if there was a video on that page, but all I did was read a bunch of stuff, and there's pictures of you. You just did such a great job, I think, of branding yourself. And I don't think there's many surprises if somebody were to read through that and say, yep, this is the person I want to be on my podcast. I don't think they're going to be really surprised with what they get.
Yeah. What you see is what you get with me online, and it kind of works. But video, I'm gonna need you to help me with the video, I guess, because I think that would make the page even better.
I know a guy or a gal. I know a guy, actually. So tell me, like, what you branding, copywriting, this is definitely a sweet spot for you. Like, what does your day-to-day look like? How are you making money? Tell us all of the things, or
all the
some
things.
of the things.
It gets more and more complicated as I do more, of course, like the toxic part of being an entrepreneur, right? But basically it comes down to there's two parts of my business. There's the studio done for you side, where me and my team, we do brand messaging, positioning, strategy work for our clients, and then copywriting. So their website, setting up funnels, setting up their pipelines, launches, helping with like digital product stuff, ongoing email marketing, like the whole thing. If it has to do with words, we do it for them and we make it as easy as possible for them. And then on the other side is like the education coaching, my own template shop, my own courses and that kind of thing. So that's it in a nutshell. It's all fun.
Your work-life balance is unique.
I'm so spoiled.
Talk a little bit about, you kind of had a transition in your life not too long ago, and tell us about what life was like before that, and what is life and work, how are things different today?
So I hustled for years. Like, this is all I've ever done. Like, I never had a real job. I landed real jobs just to prove that I could, because again, toxic traits, but then I would either not last more than 2 weeks, or I just wouldn't accept the job afterwards. Nice. Instead, I just built my business, but I was freelancing, doing all the things. I went back to school, just like working way too much, hustling so much to build something. But then when I figured out how to make things work, it all kind of paid off. So I went through these phases, like the starving artist creative type, then finding, I could freelance in marketing, going back to school for that, getting good at that, growing my business with that, and then getting to a spot where I'm coasting. And I was just working 4 days a week, had Fridays off. Things were growing super easily. I didn't have to try very hard to make it grow. I just wanted to. And then I got pregnant and realized that even 4 days a week was too much. So now my baby's here. He's 6 months old, and I work about 12 hours a week, usually within 2-ish days. And the business is still growing. I still make the same, and it's really fun. I'm kind of spoiled.
Okay, so this is super interesting. This is definitely like, the idea of this, I think, is incredible, right? It reminds me of the first time I read the 4-Hour Work Week. I was like, this Tim Ferriss guy is like full of bull. Like, there's no way he only works 4 hours. And come to find out,
I thought he was too.
He does work more than 4 hours, right? But he's built his business to where he literally only has to work 4 hours if he wants to, right? And as an entrepreneur, you know, there's like, it's like, I'm really good at this thing. And you know, what'd be fun is to teach people like how to do this thing, like educating and empowering other people. Like, that's really fun. So we add that component, or we find something else in our business where like, we could add this and do this. And, you know, there's, you know, it's easy to continue to add things into our lives that take up time. And some of those things will help increase revenue, and other of them just help us feel more fulfilled, like if we're giving back in some way of educating. And other things we do because we just think that we're supposed to. We think that we're supposed to work 40 or 50 hours. We think we're supposed to hustle. Like,
we should.
We think that, right. We should all over ourselves.
I think that's very noble. People who do things that they think they should.
It's noble, but what?
Sorry, I interrupted you. It's noble, but not fun.
So thinking through, you know, my friend Graham, very successful online business owner. He's built 2 seven-figure a year businesses, which is just incredible. And he works like 10 hours a week. And it's just like, oh my gosh. And he's figured out, you know, he's really dialed in his processes, and he only does the things that he has to. So he could make more money than he does, but he's like, this is the life that I want. Right. So I think what you're doing, it's very challenging for a lot of people, especially like when I think about production, when I think about video specifically, the amount of time and energy that goes into the kind of projects that we do, or the kind of projects that we want to do, like there's just a lot of time. So to think about working less than 40 hours a week, number one, is pretty countercultural. It's very like not the hustle mindset, which so many of us think like, yeah, when you start your business, you probably do got to hustle, right? Like, you got to figure out what are the things you like doing, what are the things you don't, what are the things that make you money, what are the things that don't. How possible do you think it is for somebody say in my position, or, you know, just anybody listening that's at whatever stage in their video business, how can we think differently about expectations? Or, you know, do we need to, you know, for the rest of our lives, just say like, no, I own this business and I've got to do, you know, at least 40 hours a week to make this thing like legit?
I don't think so. I think you just have to look at it differently. And when you have like, you don't need to have a big, massive shift like I did to kind of alter your priorities, but there's always something else you can do. There's, especially as being entrepreneurs, there's always something else we can add onto the list. There's tons of things that I want to do, but I just can't do them right now. But if you can really look at what it is that you're doing day to day and where you're wasting time, I can bet that you can cut time out. So that was the first thing. That's how I got down to like taking Fridays off, because I realized like I don't need to do certain things. And no matter what kind of business it is that you have, you can always shift something. Like you mentioned your friend who's really good at systems and processes. That's a lot of what I've set up. I've like systemized everything, templatized everything. I sell a lot of my templates in the shop so that other people can do that stuff too, right? Because it's so important. Right down to like client projects coming in and out, like a lot of their emails and workflows, those are automated. Everything is like automated on the back end. So as soon as somebody signs a project, that zaps over to our CRM so that like all of the to-dos are in there. So that's not on my list. It's not on my assistant's list anymore either. It just happens. So as you start eliminating busy work, then I think that's like the first step. And then realizing that you can free up more time, and then you just get more and more strict with it. And now it's like, there's so many things on my list that I'm not going to do, or on the business's list that I'm not going to do. And copywriting, like there's a lot that goes into it too. A website could take us so many hours. Like I could spend 40 hours working on just one website on my own, but I don't. And I know what parts are important for me to do and what parts other people on the team can do. I figured out how to delegate in the right way, systemize our processes with the team members too. So there's so many things that you can do. And I bet the same would be true for video, because it's like creative and like almost scientific, because it probably comes down to formulas in a similar way. So you when you figure out what those scientific formulas are and those systems within the creative process, then you can put yourself in these boxes and containers and be more creative in less time. At least that's what I found.
What things did you remove? Like when you kind of, you know, were first realizing like to get you to not have to work Fridays, like what were some of the big things that were sucking your time?
Offers that weren't profitable.
And what does that mean?
Oh, or in that like they maybe took too long for me. Like I would not do certain things. So when I was just trying to be the solopreneur doing all the stuff, I cut it down to no more retainers. Anyone was on retainer was not happening anymore. Everyone had to go project based so that it would be first come, first serve. And then I could systemize things more throughout the month. I could book farther out that way too. I wasn't juggling as much things at once. And I made projects shorter and more intense so that I knew I could just get that done in less time. And, just saying no to things that like wouldn't fit within my timeline. Like I knew how much I need to make in a week, and then how much that would make me make in a month, and how much I was willing to work to make those amounts. And so I just started cutting out like the fat of the business. Eventually, as I started hiring people, we could add more things back in. Like we added in retainers, but I have others supporting me in that now. And we can add in maybe more one-off projects. But when it's just you have to be like ruthless with your time.
Yeah. 100%. Was there any software that you started using, or was there like a practice like time blocking that you really just said like, hey, this is, if I do this can help, you know, instead of me doing this like a little bit here on Monday, a little bit on Tuesday, if I did this all on one day, this would add up to like, you know, an hour or two, one back from Friday.
Yeah, so it all comes together by cutting out offers that aren't profitable, making timelines more intense and shorter, which I bet you could do with video too. Like instead of having 10 clients at once, take on 2, put them in a week or 2 instead of having 10 drag on for the entire year. Then when you're doing that, then time blocking becomes a lot easier, because you're like, I only have to focus on these 2 people. I'll spend all day Monday on one, all day Tuesday on the other. Wednesday's my business day. Then it's Thursday. What are you going to do with Thursday? Everything's already done for the week. And I find when you put yourself in containers, especially as a creative type, like if I am not disciplined, I will flit around everywhere all day long and not get anything done. But when I put myself in these containers or like little boxes that I've made for myself, but not ones that other people have imposed on me, ones that I've made for myself, then I get so much more done in that time. Because like I only have 3 hours. That's it. It has to get done at 3 hours. And you'd be surprised how much you can actually get done when you start putting these like fake-ish boundaries in place.
Yeah, I think that's
all of those.
That's such good advice. My friend Graham would say the exact same thing. He batches content. He batches pretty much anything that he can do in this. I forget what Parkinson's law is the law that if I told you, hey, I need this project edited by the end of the week, you would take the entire week to edit that project. If I said, hey, I need this 2 hours from now, and there's no you have to get it to me in 2 hours, you would figure out, it's not going to be like, you're not going to spend extra time on it. You're going to spend you only have 2 hours. So we fill up the law or whatever it is. I'm so eloquent at explaining it, but we will fill up whatever we're allotted. So, if you said a week, we're going to take a week. If you said an hour, we'll figure it out in an hour. I think limiting ourselves or just trying to create some boundaries can really help psychologically, and then knowing if that's backed up against another project or another thing that you're supposed to do, it's kind of like, well, you don't have a choice. You've got to do it. And it's amazing how we can really focus our brains and our concentration when we do kind of create those, sort of visible, invisible lines that say, this is the time that you got to do that.
Mm-hmm. And it could be backed against another project or just backed against free time.
Yeah.
I have in my calendar all day on Sundays, especially a big block of black that says nothing. Mm-hmm. Nothing can happen here. So you could even do that.
Yes. Oh man. It makes, I stopped working Fridays in 2019, and I did that all the way up until the pandemic, and it was glorious. My friend Graham challenged me. He's like, dude, don't you think that, if you try to be more efficient, you try to time block, you try to create, a little bit better schedule, and then look at your schedule and try to think through what are the things that I really shouldn't be doing, things that I could delegate, or things that just aren't adding to the bottom line. And, email's always going to be there. There's always going to be people to follow up with. There's always going to be these things that you need to do. But if you just stop working on Fridays, do you think the business will continue to go on? And I was like, yeah. I'll feel a little guilty that my team's working, or that, people are waiting to hear back from me. It's like, well, I guess I do have an assistant that could follow up with people for stuff that's urgent, or hey, out of office, I'll see you on Monday. Call, Mike, if you need to talk to somebody. I did that all that time. And I think if nothing else, we kind of grew, because Fridays became a day where I could think about the business at my own pace. It's fun, kind of strategizing while I'm going through the line at Costco, as dumb as that sounds. But not feeling the pressure of having to sit down at my desk, open up email, process stuff and whatever. Creating that free time made me more efficient and made me think about my way in a business, think about my business in a way that I just couldn't when I was at my desk or in the studio and there's all of the things all around. Yeah,
you can't get those big ideas if you don't have space. Yeah. Fridays off is a good start.
It's a good start. I got to get back. My goal is end of first quarter 2023 is to be back in a place where I'm not working on Fridays. The reason why I started working Fridays again was because I said, this pandemic thing is not cool, and I don't know if I want to have a video business in 6 months, but I do have this other brand, this education brand. I really need to turn this thing into a legitimate business, and so that's what I've been doing for the last year and a half, 2 years, or however long that's been. So yeah, I'm excited to get to that place again where it's hey, Thursday night is my night to stay up late, and Friday I got an extended lunch with
Thursday
a friend
or
colleague or whatever. I'm looking forward to that.
Or sleeping in.
Nah.
Or waking up early and not having anything to do.
Like, that's a cool feeling. It's like, I'm going to drink this coffee and I'm going to drink another coffee and just like real slow, maybe read the newspaper.
Actually have time to like froth the milk and everything.
Right, exactly. I like that. I wrote this down, knowing what parts that you need to do versus your team. One thing, we had a lunch with our team this week, and we said, hey, what are the 2 or 3 things that that are your superpower? When you think about in terms of this business and how you contribute, like, what are the things that you're just so good at that when you're doing them, you just know, like, you're confident. You're like, this is why I get paid. Because the next step is to think through, like, okay, now what are the things that you get asked to do by me, your boss, or by colleagues that really aren't like your sweet spot? They take your time. They take time away from doing the thing that helps generate revenue, right? So we're trying to get the team thinking. I've been thinking like this for years. It's like, what are the things that I'm doing that are just, I shouldn't be doing? And so I was explaining to the team, I'm like, I'm not too small to take the garbage out here at the office. I'm not, or too big. I'm not too big I'm not too important to do those things. Like, I can do those things. I'm not too proud or anything like that. I'll mop the studio. I'll, do whatever. But then at some point I realized, like, man, if I'm doing that and my greatest contribution to this business is like finding more work so that people pay us, a lot more money, but I'm like taking time to do these other things, I'm doing a disservice to everybody who works for me. I'm doing a disservice to me, to my family. And so I want my employees to think like that too. And granted, like, we're not going to be able to just like hire, a bunch of people to do all of these things. But if we can all think with an owner kind of mindset or an investor mindset of like, where am I most valuable, and are there tasks that I'm doing that shouldn't do, that somebody else could do, that we could hire, for 15 or 20 bucks an hour around the studio or virtually. And one example that we kind of brought up in this lunch was when we start a new project, you get all this media. So we film something, and we come back to the studio. We got everything on, all of these SD cards. And it's like, okay, what do you do with the footage? Well, you got to, we create a folder. We put the stuff in the folder. This is how we separate it. This is where we put the audio. This is how we back it up. It's all of these things that don't have anything to do with creating a story or, creating a feeling. It's just like, no, it's just like, it's the form, it's the scientific form, it's the ones and the zeros of all the data that it needs to go somewhere, and we need to make sure that it's backed up and all that. So I just challenged my team. I'm like, my number one guy who's been with me for almost a decade, I'm like, I don't think you should be creating folders and organizing the footage and backing the footage up. I know you do that because you know how to do it. You can do it with your eyes closed. But how much time does that take? And even if it's only 15 minutes or 30 minutes project, and you do 2 or 3 projects a week, that's 1 or 2 hours a week. That, man, like, if we had you working on this project, creating the edit, crafting the edit, or overseeing, managing somebody else doing a project, that's where we're going to make the most money and make the most impact. So I think exactly what you're saying. I just wrote this note down to really for us to keep talking about that as a community here, but also like for my team.
Yeah, I think it's important for your teams too, for everybody to understand like where they fit and how they fit in a meaningful way. And then for those who are listening that maybe they don't have massive teams or anything like that, something that I did was actually write a job description for myself when I was writing job descriptions for people to hire, so that if it wasn't on my job description, then I needed to hire somebody to help me with it. And then also having like open communication with those team members, especially if you're in startup phase where like things can be scrappy. People are maybe doing things that you just need stuff done. You can't, like you said, hire someone for every single position, but always being really open with them. At least I am. And I say like, I want to come in and be the ideas girl that kind of makes messes. And I need you guys to help me pick up all the pieces and actually implement and put things together, because that's where I thrive. And I know that they thrive in helping pick up those pieces, and they know exactly what parts they're good at. So I think that's important to talk about too.
You mentioned that when we chatted a week or two ago, and I was like, oh, that's so good. I feel like I'm a good mess maker. But I think here's what's so important that you and I probably gloss over is that there are people that thrive, that they want to, exactly like what you said, they want to clean up those messes and make it make sense, right? They want to launch that thing.
It's like a problem to solve.
Yes, it's a problem to solve. And so there are
like
people
following through.
Yes. The best thing for an entrepreneur that is a visionary, that makes messes, that has ideas, is to not feel guilty for like handing what looks like a mess to your team for them to figure out, because
look at what I made.
Exactly. There are people that thrive and that want that. They're not a visionary, but they can take all that jumbled mess of a whole bunch of ideas and like, how in the world does Ryan think we can do that? Well, here is a way. Like, there are people that you can hire that want to do that. So instead of feeling guilty of like, here's this great idea, I'm not sure if we'll ever be able to do it, or here's just a bunch of stuff, you guys, can you sort it out and figure it out? Yes, there are people that thrive. And I've had people that work for me that like, they're like, seriously, like, this is what is this? Those aren't the right people, but there are other people that will just gladly take that and do something miraculous with it.
There's a few books about this. Rocket Fuel, the Visionaries and the Integrators.
Oh, yes.
And then I think there's another one, the How People and the Why People. I don't know, remember what book that was, but they talk about like there's why people who like have the vision, and then there's the how people that will actually make it happen.
Yep.
But yeah, you need to find somebody like that. And I think just having the self-awareness when you are the business owner or the entrepreneur of what it is that you're good at, or maybe shouldn't be doing, or even if you're good at it, you shouldn't do it, or maybe you're bad at and somebody else should do. It's helpful. One
of my big mistakes early on, I guess it wasn't a mistake. This is the optimist in me, or the entrepreneur. It's like, I hired somebody. I just wanted to replace myself. I'm like, I want somebody else that can shoot, that can edit, that can meet with clients. I just wanted a clone. And in doing that, the clone was somebody who, I wanted to give the mess to as well, and say like, hey, can you like, and that person was like, well, are you serious? No, I'm here. Like, I shoot, I edit, I'm creative, I sell. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, but I hired you. You're supposed to do like what I want and whatever. No. And
they're like, don't tell me what to do.
Yes. I mean, seriously. That relationship ended, and I was like, oh man, like, this person doesn't respect me as their boss. And I'm sort of uncomfortable
because they're you.
Right.
Because they're you, and because people like us are unemployable. Like, that's just why we're here. Like, that's why I got jobs, just to show people that I could, but wouldn't take them.
Yes. Oh my gosh. All these epiphanies. So I think one of the things that's so interesting and pretty brilliant that you shared with me is that you haven't pitched work since like 2018. That's a long time ago. Can you help all of us listening figure out how to do that too, in two easy steps?
A loaded question. 2 easy steps. First of all, I absolutely hated cold pitching because I started out like freelance writing, like doing some journalism stuff, just like dabbling in different places. And then I realized that marketing is where the money is, and marketing is also what I'm good at. Yeah. So I'm much better at marketing and putting together brand strategies and copywriting, rather than I used to interview people about mining and energy and like their, like, I don't even remember like the projects that they were doing in mining. I can't even think of the words right now, but I wrote about it.
Left an impression. It was meaningful.
To not cold pitch. I had like a lot of articles on that stuff. So it's funny that I can't remember it. To not have to pitch people, though, you have to stand out next to the competition, and you have to get people to want to come to you, right? Like, that's what it comes down to. Because when you're pitching, you're asking other people for work. You're trying to prove yourself. You're trying to show why you're better than the next person that might be pitching, or maybe you're applying for things. I hated that. I didn't think it was a good use of time. And I think it's kind of impossible to sell somebody in like an email and like sending your resume or whatever. Like, that's just one interaction with them. So instead, I went about it like, I'm going to create this brand and have people come to me, but I didn't exactly know what the word brand was at the time, right? Like, I just wanted people to come to me, and wanted them to want to work with me because of how I did things. And I didn't know how to communicate this at the time, but I figured it out, trial and error, made all of the mistakes, and now I help people skip all of those mistakes. But it really comes down to showing up authentically online and like owning the real you. And that sounds super tacky and cliche, but it really comes down to that, because if people are going to work with you, like we started off talking here, like that page that you saw, what you see is what you get. And my clients see that and they get that. Yeah. And I do the same for them. So if you can do that, then people will start to come to you. Of course, there's strategy in it and different tactics. Like, how do you get people to come see you?
Yeah.
Like, what channel are you going to market on? Are you going to have a website? Are you going to build a funnel? Like, all of those are tactics. That's less important than figuring out who you are and who you want to reach and how you can help them and how you can talk to them in a meaningful way. And then that way, that's how I haven't pitched for work since 2018, but my business just keeps growing.
Okay, so you've figured out how to articulate that. Are there any tactics or things that you're using today that are working to help not pitch?
Right now is a very bad example, because my marketing has been like, I've just been like momming, it just shows how the brand works though, right? Because I have my website up and I've been posting the odd story stuck on my couch with a baby on me, and clients keep coming. Yeah. So it shows that it works. But back to the earlier days, like I chose Instagram as my channel, and I just like went all in on one channel and talking to like one type of person and making sure that I was giving them not only like, everybody thinks with marketing, I have to give them tips. I have to show that I know what I'm talking about. And I was like, no, I want to show them that I know what I'm talking about, but I'm also going to talk about, my like active living. Like we'd go on like hiking. We lived out in the mountains in Alberta at the time. So we'd go hiking. I'd show my green juice. I'd show my red wine, because I think there's balance in life. And I'd talk about building the business and like try to connect with them on a personal level too. And then every time I'd get a sales call from somebody who found me on Instagram, it felt like they already knew me. And so my sales calls stopped becoming sales calls and they started becoming like, when can you start calls? Because they already had that connection with me. So a tactic, I guess, would be choosing a platform where you think your people are hanging out and just going all in on that. And then once I figured that out, then I would add in a different platform maybe. Then I upgraded my website and my visual brand so that it all fit too. And got into email marketing. So just doing one thing really well first. Yeah. And then you can keep adding things on to get more people that way. And then eventually you'll get to a spot where you don't really post anything and people come, again, spoiled or crazy.
Was it when you were building and experiencing a lot of momentum, was there a cadence, like you would post maybe one thing like a, best practice or something regarding copywriting or branding, and then you would post, 4 personal things over the course of a week or 2 weeks? Was there any type of rhythm that you applied that worked, or was it just kind of like whatever you're feeling in the moment?
No, I had a system to it, because like systemizing everything, right? So I would batch out a lot of my content, and I would make sure that if I was going to post, so I did an entire year where I posted something every single day on Instagram, and that's when I saw the most growth. That wasn't sustainable after that, because I just was too busy, but I got through the whole year. I like to do things really intense when I'm going to do them, like A+ or nothing. So when planning out the content, though, I would just kind of rotate through. Like, this one's going to be more inspirational. This one's going to be kind of educational. This is going to be just like a word vomit diary kind of style. And then as I rotate through all of those pieces, then it just feels balanced overall.
Okay, so I'm a filmmaker, and I've been doing this work for a couple of years, and I'm getting some clients. I'm not super happy with the kind of work that I'm doing. Like, I'm glad that I'm able to do this for a living, but man, I wish I could charge more. I wish I was happier with the kind of clients that were calling. I wish they understood me and my approach a little bit more. I kind of feel like a tripod a lot of the times. I'm showing up with our fancy gear and doing what they want me to do. I'm not really sure, I don't even have a good photo of me on my website. And Instagram is pretty like, I post, occasionally when we're working on a new project, but not really consistent because I'm, doing all of the things. Where should I start trying to figure out where do I start to communicate me, to understand like who I am in the marketplace so that people can hire me? And I don't know, with that kind of setup, what would you recommend for somebody like me?
You need to figure out who you want to work with first. Like, who are they as a person? Not just everybody does make a customer avatar. They make approximately X amount per year and they live in. No, that's not what we want. I want to know like who they are as a person. What do they value? What keeps them up at night? How do they talk? Would you hang out with them? Like, would you go get a beer with them? All of my clients, I would invite over to my house for a party and we'd have a great time. Like, that's important to me. And I figured out who they were. And then by figuring out who they are, then I know what parts of me they'll like. And then you can start to strategically curate this character of you. So it's you, it's authentic to you. It's just the parts of you that they need to see, because you also don't want to confuse them with everything about you. It's impossible to share everything on the internet in little grids and about pages and stuff like that. So once you know them, you can pick out the parts of you that are important to them and relevant to them, and you highlight those pieces. And you just keep doing that over and over again, and you'll figure out what kinds of things to say and how to show up in your photos and your videos in order to actually connect with them. And then as this builds, there's like an authority piece that comes with it too, right? Like, you have to show up confidently and start to build that authority, especially if you want to raise your rates. Like, creatives charging fair amounts is a big thing. And if we don't believe in our work and we're not talking about it in a smart way, then nobody's going to pay it. So for an example of me, like, I used to sell 500 word websites, 500 word about pages. But that doesn't sound as cool as I'm going to help you put together an entire brand strategy that's going to get more clients on autopilot for you and help you make more conversions. And you're going to have a whole start to finish website and they just start adding in all of this stuff. The word counts don't matter, but videographers, they might, if they're new, they might be selling a 10-minute video. Well, no, but like, what does that video do? What does it get them? What's your promise? Yeah. That'll help with that part. That was a bunch of different things at once.
No, that's really good. I'm taking notes here. Okay. Authority, showing up confidently. I think part of where this starts, and it took me a really long time to feel confident, because we would do projects like you're saying, client would say like, hey, we need a video for our law firm. Okay, what do you need? Well, we need somebody to show up, do a couple of interviews, get some footage around our office. Okay, yeah, we can do that. And so we're just taking orders, right? Yeah. And giving them what they wanted. But really deep inside, like, what they wanted was more clients. Yeah. And we didn't approach the project like that. We weren't thinking like that. We're just trying to make them happy by giving them what it is that they want. So there's no measurable at the end of a project, or when a client has their project for 6 months. I'm so glad you said what you said, because I'm like, oh yeah, what we need to do is ask clients up front, what is success for this project? Like, what, when this video is rolling, what is happening when people are watching it? It's like, oh, well, they're booking calls, or they're just realizing like, this is the company that we need to work with. We need to hire them, so that you can, when you're talking to another potential client, you're talking about that transformation that you helped a business get. Not as the sole result of your video. Probably they had a campaign, or they had other, strategies going into this thing. But hey, your video played a part in helping them get more clients, increase revenue, save time. Like, those are the things that somebody's going to hire you for. Not because you did a cool video for a law firm. It's like, oh, you helped them get a result. So there's zero confidence trying to pitch a new client. The only confidence we have is like how good our work looks, unless there's a broader story to tell that's tied into what kind of results we helped them get.
Yeah, the results are big. You can talk to your past clients about it too, to start asking them the right questions, right? Like, if they have any measurables from before and after, but then also some of it's faked at the beginning. Like, not everyone is confident every day. Like, when you're getting on a sales call, right. Like, I'm still not confident sometimes, but if you can fake it, then eventually it clicks, right?
Yeah, I think the thing that helped me the most was having, dumb as it sounds, I had a script. I had an outline. This is the flow of the call. Oh yeah. Wow. But it was my whole thing. Like, I'm all about. It's what?
I don't see you doing that kind of thing.
Well, because I knew that when I realized that, hey, I need to start asking very specific questions, and I felt like there was a flow that these calls should kind of go in, like setting the agenda, like, hey, here's what we're going to talk about today. Like if I felt like the meetings where I started doing that, I'm like, our clients are like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. I'm like, oh, this is the first time that I felt like I've controlled the conversation versus like being an order taker and just having the client tell me, because they're used to running the meeting with whatever freelancer they're working with. They're, hey, here's what we need, da, 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 da. And so I would just say, like, great. No, that's all good. Well, let me just tell you how we help our clients get the most success. So in this meeting, what I'm going to need when we walk away is X, Y, and Z. So if that sounds good, then like, let me go through my stuff. And then if you got more stuff to add after, we'll cover that stuff. So that was the flow that I was creating. And the first couple of times it was pretty robotic because I'm like, oh yes, say this sentence, inject this here. But after I did it 2 or 3 times, and I started seeing the confidence in my clients in me, like they're like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking. He's got a process. That changed for me. That changed the game. And then finally, like, today I can have those conversations, and I know I'm like, okay, we need to talk about like when do they need this, budget range, blah, blah, blah. I can do it with my eyes closed. Well, on most calls, my, eyes don't need to be open or closed, but I digress.
You said something like they work with freelancers. And like I was talking to some of those same kind of people, right? But when you shift in your mind, you're not a freelancer, you're a business owner. And they're coming to you because they need... Like they might need an order taker, but maybe that's not you. Like you are maybe more so of a consultant, and they're looking to you for advice. And when you have that mindset, then that changes everything too. And I guess like when you say script, I think it's funny that you had every sentence written down, but I did the same kind of things. I was like, wait a second, I need to be leading these calls. And then when I lead the calls now, like the calls are a lot faster. They're a lot more effective. Oh my gosh. The fact that you have a process like sets you apart from so many people, especially if they're creative types like us that like to flit around and not have processes. If you get a process, you're instantly better. Lots of
I went from a 60-minute, hey, let's book a call. We'll talk about your project. It was a 60-minute block in my calendar. And it was just kind of like open-ended, like, hey, like, tell me about where'd you grow up and like, tell me all the things. Right. That's what I thought. I needed to build rapport, and I needed to rely on my personality and just like building a friendship. And as soon as we started doing this flow, we call it the Ascend method, and you can actually download a copy of this method itself if you go to studiosherpas.com/ascend. But when we started applying this method, today you book a discovery call with me, it's 20 minutes.
Yeah, mine's 20 minutes.
It's like if it's a fun conversation and I want to continue after 20 minutes, we can. But like for me to get through, hey, what's the problem? Like what's success for you? What are your goals? What are your hopes? Timeline, budget, blah, blah, blah. Punch, just get through the things. Yeah. And nobody likes me less because of that. They actually appreciate more that we're just like, hey, there's no, like, you can find out more about me here. If you want to chat, like, maybe we'll meet up for a beer or something, but like, let's talk about your project. The important thing on the plate, because we both have other things to do today. Yeah.
People are like a lot more respectful of that. And I think the cool thing is like before you might have been doing these 60-minute calls and maybe not selling as much. And now you can probably sell tens of thousands of dollars in 20 minutes. And that's like the only time that they've met you. Yeah. It makes a difference because the authority, like the time, you're respectful of their time. And another thing that I've noticed lately because of my schedules being like pretty tight is that my calls will have to book a few weeks out now. Like I'm not available for a discovery call tomorrow or next week. And maybe not the week after. So when they see that, they're like, shit, like I needed to book something right away because I saw you weren't busy. You were busy for a few weeks, but like now I'm here and I'm so excited. So that helps.
Yep. Yeah. It just changed, like little subtle things like that really make a difference, psychologically. Not like we're trying to manipulate people.
It's honest.
We run our business in a way that works for us.
Yeah.
I think first. To be able to serve our clients in the best way possible.
Yeah. And I think when you build something like that, then you are able to do better work. And that's what they want, right?
100%. Yeah. If they know that we're not going to beat around the bush on a discovery call and that we really want to know the heartbeat of this project and what's going to make a difference and what's going to be success and how are you defining that, and we've got a flow and a process, they're just going to think like, Wow, that was pretty efficient. I'm guessing that's how when they're filming, when they're editing, revisions, that's probably what they apply to this whole thing. So I like this vibe here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for everybody, but the smart ones it's for. No,
That's
just kidding.
okay. Well, it's okay if you're not for everybody or if this isn't for everybody, but for the ones that it's for, like us, hopefully it's helpful for some people who are listening too.
Yeah. Jill, I'm hoping that we've inspired people today. I really want people to check your, at least your podcast page, because that to me, I was just like, man, it's so good.
It's hidden on the website.
So much personality.
It's hidden. Yeah. You only get it if you get sent it.
Yes, and I was one of the lucky ones. So, okay, besides that, how can people see some of the other work that you've done? I know you've got a couple of cool offers for us. Tell us all the things.
So my home on the internet is itsjillwise.com. Like, not just Jill Wise. That was way too expensive. It's jillwise.com. Like, budgets here, people.
That's right.
Everyone is always like, oh, it's Jill Wise. I'm like, no, it's Jill Wise. ITS.
www.
I did not. I thought it was clever at first, and now I'm like, this is backfiring, but I don't care. It's way cheaper than Jill Wise. Wise is a very expensive word, like thousands of dollars a year. This makes it so it's like $20 a year sold.
Smart.
So if you go to itsjillwise.com, there's a bunch of things there for you. You can just read it. People like reading my website. They think it's fun. But I have a free course that kind of gets you into the world of branding and positioning yourself and copywriting in order to attract those dream clients. It's called 4 Steps to Profit. So that would be at /4 Steps to Profit with hyphens in between. And it's just linked on the homepage too all the time. And another one that people are liking right now is my 6-figure schedule. So if you're new to freelancing and you're like, how do I get past that ceiling? I feel like that's a ceiling that a lot of people get stuck at. That one is a peek at my schedule, some things I've done to like delegate better. You get my job descriptions. You can steal my job description and apply it to your business too. A bunch of stuff like that in there. It's really good. People are liking it too.
I love it. Yeah, follow Jill. She's very unconventional. Would you embrace that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't like rules. I don't like doing things so people say you should do them. Yes. I only like rules if I make them, actually. I won't even play games with people because I don't like following those rules. Like, you try to tell me how to play a game and my eyes will glaze over.
Oh man, people like you are so. People like me need people like you in the world. So thank you for what you bring to the world. Appreciate this so much, Jill. It's been fun and very informative. Thank you for blessing us with your presence and all of your wisdom. I was going to say thank you again, but I think I said that like 3 or 4 times.
That's okay. You can thank me again. You can thank me again.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode. You can get access to all the things that we talked about, the links and all of that stuff in the show notes by just going to studiosherpas.com/302. This was episode 302. I do have a question for you. What did you think about this discussion and specifically the topic of our hustle culture? Do you feel like the only way for you to make more is to work more? I would love to hear your thoughts on this conversation. Leave a comment if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube. You can email me, ryan@studiosherpas.com, and just give me your feedback there. Don't forget to grab the Ascend method at studiosherpas.com/ascend. My gift to you. You're amazing. Have an incredible week, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.